Can you hear me?
Hey!
Hello and a warm welcome to Glasgow Film Festival. Thank you very much for coming out this Sunday afternoon. The film you're about to see is The Island, and we have the directors, Elizabeth and Brek, who are here, and also the film star Colin. And there's going to be a Q&A at the end of the film, so please stay in your seats at the end of the film and have a listen about how the film was made. But first of all, can I introduce the film's directors, Brek and Elizabeth.
It's just a quick thanks really to the Glasgow Film Festival for selecting Ireland for our world premiere. It's very, very exciting. And thank you all for making the effort to come along today. Some of you really trekked, and some of you have been our online fans and we've not met you, so do come up to us afterwards and say hello as well. And yeah, so just so you know, I'm Brek Taylor and this is Liz Mitchell, and we're the co-directors. And Liz just wanted to say a little something about Glasgow and why it's so significant that we're here.
Again, very quickly, but just to say this took 5 years to make, very a long time. And Glasgow throughout was a great support through the film office, through location scouting, through casting. So we have a very, very dear place in our hearts for the city. So many thanks, and we hope you enjoy the film.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for staying. Can I welcome back to the stage our guests, Elizabeth, Colin, and Brek. So we're going to do a standard Q&A kind of format. My name is Eddie Harrison, film journalist for The List. I'm going to ask a few questions of my own and then open it up for anything that you in the audience would like to ask for an esteemed panel. Can I start by asking a little bit obvious question about the locations that were used in the film? Where did you actually shoot? What were the difficulties of shooting, up in the wild?
Okay, well, we took a lot of time. We always knew it had to be Scotland. The book is set here. It's set on a fictional island. Jane Rogers, the author, had a very specific island in mind, which was Rassay off Skye. But that was too small for us, for a whole crew to shoot in. So we did scout Skye, and amongst other islands too, but Mull came up easily the best. It was just perfect. It was exactly what we both had in our mind's eye. A slightly, incredibly beautiful, but quite a desolate place, I think we were looking for. And so we, with Scottish Screen and the Glasgow Film Office, we came up several times and scouted, and and it just, in terms of the locations around Mull, the house location is in the southwest of the island on the way to Iona, and really we shot throughout that island, every last corner, the Vague for the village, so that we plundered that island. We were there for several weeks and we shot pretty much everywhere you can.
Colin, can I ask you a little bit about how does this compare to working on something like Merlin? Is this a different kind of shoot? Is this less luxurious? Is it more
It's exactly the same. It's completely different. I mean, getting to work in completely different environments, as we're saying, extreme environments, and completely different stories, immersing yourself in something completely new. I was really, really lucky with this because I fell in love with the story as soon as I read the script, and then I read the book, and I thought it was just something I immediately thought would be fantastic to be involved in. And when I did become involved, it was great because with that type of character you can create your own wee world and live in that, and that's kind of what it did, and it's kind of what we all did on that island in different ways, and we dealt with it in different ways, and it was, but yeah, it's hugely different from something like Merlin, which is very time restricted in a way, and very non-stop. I mean, we were quite non-stop as well, but yeah, it didn't feel as pressurised.
When I was doing my research, I found out that not only did you go to the RSMD across the road, but you actually used to work here at Cinema.
I did, yeah. I worked in the cafe bar downstairs. Just going up the escalators there, having flashbacks of carrying all the rubbish down there. So, slightly different this time.
at the end of the screening, Colin will be coming around the auditorium to pick up any rubbish.
Pints are on me.
Can I ask a little bit about Nikki's character then? I mean, she's a very internal character, so what are the challenges of actually getting that character onto the big screen? Because it's a very different thing from the book.
Yeah, I think we'll answer this one together, Liz, because obviously Liz wrote it, and then actually, it's like, that's probably a relevant point in terms of how we work. Liz is obviously more of the writer, and I'm more of the visuals, and we developed it together, and that was quite key for interpreting the story and making it Nikki's visually on screen. And I think one of the key factors was the psychology, what she was seeing when she first arrived on the island. Show how she saw the island in terms of she didn't get what the island was about, that the colours were much more muted at the beginning, the shots were much more narrower. So we decided that during the film that we would widen the shots as her and Callum's relationship kind of blossomed and she got to see the island. Hopefully the audience is seeing it alongside Nikki as to what the island is about, but also in terms of the story with her mother and her past. That it was very important to get that in terms of her, how she got to where she was and why she needed to get to the island. So the flashbacks were quite vital. I think we decided, we went through lots of different ways, didn't we, in terms of how to incorporate the flashbacks, but we had them all at the beginning, initially, and then in filmmaking you often find that you've got a story in the script, then you've got a story when you shoot, and then you've got another story when you edit. And we really found our rhythm, I think, very nicely in the edit in terms of accessing Nikki. She was quite a hard kind of character to make sympathetic. Would you want to add?
Yeah. Well, just how many of you have actually read the book? Okay, quite a lot of you, right? So you know that it's in the first person, so it's, you know, it is all about her and her train of thought, basically. And so that's traditionally a very difficult thing to try and transpose onto the screen. And I think you might have seen from some of the dialogue, it's deliberately quite dry and quite empty, and a lot of time, you know, you're supposed to hear the whirring of her brain, basically, going on behind a lot of what she says.
Colin, having heard you both talk about the kind of the way the film was directed, can I ask you what it's like being directed by two directors?
Horrible. No, these two ladies are absolutely fantastic. I mean, the amount of work and love that is put into a script when you first read it. I mean, when you first read a script and you see something in it, you get a feeling about it. Then a lot of work's been put into it, and I fell in love with it from the beginning. And then getting to work on it and being on the island. I mean, we're very close on the island because you know you're basically living on this remote place for the first time there for about 3 weeks, and but yeah, because it's great because you've got the insight from having written the script, and I mean, I don't know how many times you've read that book, probably hundreds, and of course collaborating both in a visual and a psychological way was brilliant. You get two completely different views, so you're getting a very rounded view. I think the more eyes you've got on the characters and the story, the better. And I found it extremely useful, and yeah, we had a blast, didn't we?
And just before we take it out to the audience, can I ask why it took 5 years then? Was it because it's quite difficult?
Two directors, it takes twice as long to decide on it now. I'll say something. It took 5 years because it's an independent British film, and this country isn't particularly well geared to funding first-time feature film directors. So the majority of that time, to be fair, was spent, we did pace ourselves at the same time. We spent the first year trying to option the book, pretty much the second year writing the screenplay, making it, and this is whilst we have full-time other jobs, by the way. And the years 3 and 4 were spent raising the money, and year 5 was spent making it, really shooting it and getting it out there. So when you look at it like that, it kind of makes sense. And it's actually quite a short period of time by a lot of a lot of independent film standards.
Almost everything you said was true, Liz. I'm just going to make one correction. Probably because it was a really difficult time for us. I think Liz has chosen to kind of forget it. But we actually did 2 shoots over a year. So we shot in December 2008 and December 2009. And that's a massive contributor to why we took 5 years, I think, because we actually ran out of money, and our producer fell ill for all kinds of reasons. So it's been a real struggle. I mean, as finding the money was one thing, but just shooting it was a struggle, and then editing it. We were raising money as we went along because we were first-time filmmakers, and as Liz so rightly said, it's so difficult to get your first film off the ground for so many reasons. So we have really kind of gone at it for every one of those 5 years, and even the edit too. You know, getting that together and getting it right. But we're also perfectionists. That's the other factor as well. We didn't kind of sign off on anything until it was right. Annoying for everyone, but hopefully it was worth it.
I think it is worth it. Congratulations on your film. We'll now find out what the world premiere audience have to say about it. Any questions or comments that people have about the film? Just put up your hand. One straight away. Yes, please.
I was just wondering, in terms of adapting the book for the screen, about the decision to make Nikki's father her mother's brother as opposed to her mother's father, and sort of the thought that went into doing that. Because I mean, maybe for me, the horror of the book comes from the fact that it becomes so grounded in realism that it really could happen. Whereas I think as the film was going along, the horror of it almost came from the fact that as it went on, it became more surreal, and as you got immersed in the world of the island, the real world became more and more remote, which probably is served by the fact that we never see Nikki leave and come back. I mean, was that what you were going for with that, sort of create more symbolism?
Did everyone hear that? Yes? No. Okay. The question was, to paraphrase, in the book, the final reveal is that Nikki is the product of incest between her mother and her and Phyllis's father, and we turned it so that Nikki was the product of incest between her mother and Phyllis's brother, and we did that for a variety of reasons. One was that we felt, this is going to sound quite callous, but we felt that incest between a father and a daughter, was very common filmically. A lot of people use that as a device. Secondly, that it rendered Phyllis more of a victim, and we wanted to make her more ambiguous, and we felt that incest between siblings was a slightly more, there's an equal culpability there between them. And thirdly, we wanted to reflect what had just happened between Callum and Nikki later on, and so that Nikki really understands that she has sort of the sins of the mother kind of thing have repeated in her. They were the main themes.
Thank you for that question. Further questions? Anyone? Yes.
I was actually interested in how you casted. Did you always have a particular, like, I think Phyllis and Callum, from when I read the book, weren't exactly what I'd envisaged. So did you have firm ideas, or did it change as you went along?
Can you tell us a little bit about the casting process and decisions you made in plan?
Yeah, absolutely. A casting we decided to try and get right quite early on because of our situation. We needed to fundraise in Cannes, so we went with a pack, with a little short clip of the film that we'd made, and with some of our casting ideas. So that started probably that second or third year, didn't it, that we kind of went with that. And then as we set our shoot date, which I think was even 2007 initially, we had our some ideas as well for cast. But because of money, because of the credit crunch, we were really affected by our start time and by support from various screen councils. And so our first kind of grouping, we actually lost because the timing of financial decisions, etc., really affected that. And then we kind of regrouped, got together again, and the timing was perfect. We were very, very lucky with who we got. And I mean, I think as we went along, we had a very strong idea of who we wanted for each character in terms of what our core were and what we were looking for. But absolutely, I think that the last group was just tip-top.
And it is worth saying that it's very common for people to cast and cast and cast. You know, in terms of it, cast changes all the time. So I'm sure Colin's turned down things that other people have, gone on to take inevitably. And similarly, all your actors, you rely so heavily on their availability at any given time, and if your shoot date constantly changing. If we had shot a month later, we wouldn't have had Colin because he would have had to shoot Merlin. So that it's very common to constantly have to.
Can I follow that up actually by asking Colin, what was it like working with Natalie on this? Because you've got a very intense relationship. You know, what was she like to deal with on set?
Yeah. Well, she's gets very involved into the role, and she clearly done her research quite a lot on the book, and very much absorbed herself in the character. And of course, whenever you're playing brother and sister unknowingly throughout the film, it's great to have a bizarre unknowing connection in a way. And obviously, as actors, you know that throughout the film, but yeah, we ran lines every night and did as much background work as we can, and yeah, I think her performance on screen is absolutely fantastic. You can see everything that's going on in her mind through her eyes. It's great.
Further questions?
Was it shot on film? Was that a decision because it seems to make the film almost a bit more surreal, it's a bit more alien, even more cynical in a sense. It reminds me of older films such as Witchfinder General, and it had that sort of feel to it.
Yeah, can you tell us what did you shoot on and why?
We chose to shoot on Super 16. Which is film. We tried several formats out. We actually went up a year prior to shooting in 2009 with our cinematographer, Rain Lee. And we had some Kodak stock, we had some Fuji stock, and we also tried out high definition. But the high definition was too crisp, just as you kind of suggested. We wanted a slightly otherworldly look to the film. It was really important that we were as much in Nikki's head as possible, and we felt that the graininess and that sense of story would come across so much more with the grain. But going with the Fuji was really helpful too. Not only was Rain very versed with using the Fuji, in terms of the palette, just worked much better than the Kodak Q's, a bit stronger. So yeah, we were really happy with that, and in the grade it really paid off as well, because obviously at the moment we're still digital, but you've still got that graininess as well coming through. So I think, is there anything?
No, other than we developed a big set of director's notes before we shot the film, which was, and we researched quite heavily palettes, as you say, and obviously other films that had that influenced us in Breaking the Waves and things like that. You know, it's very obviously quite a big influence in terms of the cinematography and or certainly the palette and the light of the Western Highlands.
Just before going to our last question then, can I ask the audience for a kind of rough show of hands of how many of you felt positively about the film?
Oh, thanks, God.
Thank you very much, that's very good. The film is going to screen again tomorrow, and it's also going to be spontaneously screened today because the screening of The Tin Drum has been cancelled due to a technical problem. And this film will be screening around about 5 o'clock, something like that. So if you know
If you
anyone
want to come back and go through that again.
if you liked it that much. So we're going to finish up by asking, in general, what's going to happen to this film beyond Glasgow Film Festival, and then also asking you each individually what your next projects are.
I'll answer that first one. Solar Pictures are distributing it throughout the UK, starting as part of their new British Cinema Quarterly, which is a sort of distribution programme they set up last year for films that play at Glasgow and Edinburgh Film Festival. So it will be countrywide from Easter weekends of late April for that quarter, and then it will be released on DVD in July. So the dates are TBD, but there will definitely be a touring version around Scotland as well. So we're very excited about that, and it's hopefully going to get released in the States as well, so we're keeping fingers crossed for that. Tribeca Film Festival, we hope. We don't know yet. And then what we're doing next. I've just finished writing a screenplay, a World War II epic, and we are about to collaborate on a romantic comedy, something totally different.
Yay! I don't know how to follow that bit up, really. Oh, really? Okay. So yeah, romantic comedy, we thought it was really important to kind of swing the other way in terms of film genre, because we've got quite a few other projects also planned, and so we want to kind of show our range and kind of explore, and we want to go abroad again randomly. We want to go to Russia. So it's another adaptation, and it'll take a little while for us to do our prep again because we've got quite a specific way of working together. We like to workshop and try out different artists' animations again, and again, there's a bit of a surreal element to it as well. It's a really, and I'm not going to say too much. It'll be out on our website hopefully in the next 6 months. So hopefully you can check up on that.
I'm currently doing a play down at the Royal Court in London at the minute. I finish up that in March, and then I start on a 4th series with Marley. That's me.
I think on that note we're going to finish up. Can I thank the audience for your interest and enthusiasm for the film? It's been great. And can we have a big round of applause for our